Hi everyone, this is Professor Lodato, and this week we will talk about argument, persuasion, and the synthesis paper that you're going to write for the latter half of the semester. Often, when using this method, you begin by stating an opinion, your view on things. You usually then move to make a proposal or some kind of recommended action. The Bedford Reader says, critically reading other people's arguments and composing your own, you will find, helps you discover what you think, refine it, and share what you believe. This is important because you're not only stating your opinion in an argumentative paper, but you're developing your thoughts on a certain subject. There's two different aims in this type of paper. One is persuasion. Persuasion aims to influence readers' actions or beliefs or their support for an action by engaging their feelings about it. An argument aims to win a reader's agreement with an assertion or claim by engaging the power of reason. So persuasion is more of an emotional appeal, and argument is more of a logical appeal or rational appeal. So elements of an effective argument. Each argument has to have a claim. A claim is an assertion that requires some type of support. The thesis statement is the central claim in your argument, the claim that all the rest of the argument hinges on. The thesis is most often at the beginning of your paper, but sometimes it later if you need to lay out your argument. There are many different types of claims. We have cultural claims, value claims, reality claims, claims of course of action, even some of the types of essays we've talked about before, definition, compare and contrast, these can all be types of claims. The evidence is that which supports your claims. Sometimes it's called data, or it could also be called grounds. When we use that language of grounds, think of the common phrase, on what grounds? It basically means what is the fundamental base level evidence that the rest of the argument stands atop. We evaluate evidence for a couple of different things. We need to know the accuracy of it, what it represents, how relevant it is, and is this an adequate enough evidence to prove your argument and not your opponent's. There's a simpler way of looking at this called the crap test. So if you're evaluating something, you want to know, is it crap? Is it current? Is it relevant? Does the person or text have the authority to speak on that topic? Is it accurate? And really importantly, what is the purpose behind this information? Because some things may be true, but they may be malinformation, true information that is used for a malicious purpose. But rational appeals are the logos. Ethical appeals, having to do with moral or credibility issues, are ethos. And emotional appeals are pathos, which are trying to evoke some type of sympathy in the reader. An assumption can also be known as a warrant. A warrant is a belief, principle, or inference whose truth the writer takes for granted. These warrants explain why evidence leads to and justifies a claim. There are two main methods of reasoning. One is inductive and the other one is deductive. So inductive, we know better as the scientific method. We're moving from some specific phenomenon that we observe to a more general theory. The more evidence, the stronger the claim will be. There is also this moment in inductive reasoning where we have to take an inductive leap. That's the reasonably generalized conclusion based on the evidence. In most of your science classes, you probably learned if you can do an experiment under the same circumstance 3 times, we can make that inductive leap that it is more broadly true, the hypothesis that you're testing. Deductive reasoning moves from a general statement to a particular case. And this is the same type of logic as a syllogism, where we have an assumption and then evidence and then a thesis. Here's a really famous example. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. We move from the most generic statement to the more specific instance to a statement that ties them together. So, when you're trying to find a subject, you should first consider if you're going to be stating an opinion or proposing a change. An opinion will make a claim and support it. And the question you'd want to ask yourself is this something which reasonable people can disagree with? If it's not reasonable to disagree with the claim, it's way too broad and you can't use it. If you're going to wind up trying to propose a change, the proposal first establishes your opinion and then presents a remedy or a modification. You do want to choose a manageable topic to research because this is just a short term assignment. It's due before the end of our semester versus a doctoral thesis, which you have 4 or 5 years to work on. So, the organization of an argument essay goes as follows. You usually begin an argument essay with an introduction that lays out your claim and a conclusion that will either prove your claim or propose a new change. The body of the paper is where you're providing the evidence to support each claim that you've made, each subclaim. You're going to notice that you'll use other methods in these body paragraphs: description, definition, example, and even narration. There's also going to be a section of your paper where you have to respond to objections. This is a way of tackling the opposite view to show that your argument is stronger than the other person's. Now, we call it a synthesis paper because you're using the work of others to inform your own perspective. And then you're connecting your opinion back to the research other people have done. A synthesis paper implies that you have multiple sources that all come together to support your idea. So, where do we start? First, you want to select a subject that you're interested in researching. This might be something that you just have as a hobby in your life. This might be your potential college major. Your book also has a great table of contents by discipline on these pages. Next, we're going to develop a research question. After you develop a research question, you're going to write a proposal. Once you write a proposal, I'll give you some guidance on where to find articles about this topic. And from there, you will write a thesis statement and outline to bring those articles into conversation with each other. So, what is a research question? A research question is something you want to know about your discipline or a specific area within your discipline. It is not a topic, a fragment, phrase, or a sentence. It has to be an actual question with a question mark at the end. It's clear and precisely stated. It's neither too broad nor too narrow, so it has to fit in that middle zone. And it has to be open-ended. It cannot be something that's easily answered. You do have to do some research to find an answer. So the first strategy to find a research question is to list your interests as they pertain to your specific discipline or to this assignment. Consider one of the items on your list and then jot down everything you know about that topic as quickly as you can. The point of making this list is to get you to generate as many ideas as possible and see where there are gaps in your knowledge. And that's where you would go off and research. A focusing question is the most important question you discovered from your prior activity of making the list. Supporting questions are the questions that will help you explore the relationships around that focusing question in greater depth. So you have one large focus that will eventually become the thesis of your paper, whatever your answer is. And then all of the supporting ones are the steps that get you there. Here's an example. Focusing question. How can the university community increase its economic impact on the Florence Muscle Shoals community? Supporting questions might be, what does the community currently do to impact the economy? What could be done that isn't being done? Why? What are the limitations? When asking these questions, we have one larger broad question on economic impact, and then 4 or 5 small specific questions about what's currently being done, why not, what's possible, what's legal, those kind of things. Some final thoughts. You want to pose a question that you want an answer to, as do many other people. Your purpose is your reason for asking the question. The answer to your research question will be a complete statement expressed as a sentence. You might also consider what rhetorical mode fits best at different parts of your paper. So, for example, if you were making an argument for a certain political opinion, you might compare and contrast different political parties' stance on that issue in one of your body paragraphs. Most importantly, though, don't get discouraged or worried if you find that your thesis or your beliefs begin changing as you are developing your paper. This is what the paper is for. It's to develop your thinking rather than to just answer the question.